Hey there, hello everyone. This is Arvind. Welcome back to the channel Philly on Willy. Today we are here in the workshop of LRL Motors, Edapalli, Kochi. Why we are here? We are here to get the monsoon maintenance of the motorcycle done properly. For the time being, this bike has been driven for over 2500 kilometers in the monsoon period at Kerala. So there has been a lot of muck and slush and dirt which has gone in. Let's get started, and the first activity to be done is to put this motorcycle on the paddock stand. The paddock stand is a little bit tricky thing because of the weight of this bike. Having put this vehicle on the paddock stand, the attempt was made to remove or loosen the bolt of the rear caliper. As the same things have not been moved in the past 3 months, I think they have got a bit hardened because of the weather and the rusting issues that would have come in. So Salman took a break, and after donning his safety gloves, he again got back into loosening the bolts of the rear caliper. They are a bit hard, as you could see. The reason is that the rear brakes are used far more times than the front brakes are utilized, so the rear brakes would naturally get more jammed, more packed up. So the rear caliper has been removed, and you can see how much of dirt and slush is there inside. It has lost its natural color. It's almost black. So definitely the first thing to be done is to remove both the orange colored brake pads from the rear caliper. As I said, because of the amount of effort that is being required to be put in, the brake calipers dismantling is taking a long time. Especially the brake pads have both got jammed and they have almost started touching each other, and that would have been a great danger if I had continued using this system from now on without getting its maintenance done. So finally the brake pads have been separated. The next step is to make sure that the brake lever is pressed and the cylinder which moves the brake pads together closer are cleaned and loosened up a bit. A very diligent worker, he uses 2 sets of tools, one wire brush and a nylon brush for all the cleaning. Step next is to make sure that sufficient amount of anti-rust or degreasing liquids are applied to every part inside the caliper. Every moving and non-moving part, they are properly drenched, all the greases are loosened up, and made sure that there is no corner of this caliper system which has been spared. So once that is done, make sure that the caliper inside and outside are properly cleaned and scrubbed off, so that maximum dirt which are sticking on to the calipers, they can be loosened up a bit. Be very generous with the amount of liquid you would use, because that is the only way to make sure that all the parts inside the bike calipers are sufficiently drenched, and if there is even a tiny bit of rust continuing to remain, they also need to be thoroughly scrubbed and removed using both the brushes. The best method to make sure that it is dried up is using a high pressure air gun, so that every part of the caliper system can be blow dried and no particle or no watery residue is ever left behind anywhere. So once this process is done, make sure that all parts of the caliper system, especially the drums which move up and down, they are all cleaned using a nice dry cloth or a rag, whatever that is available, but please do make sure that they are properly wiped clean. Every part needs to be wiped clean as much as the hands and your tools can reach there. So this is probably the most important part of the maintenance, the cleaning of the brake pad surfaces. It has to be done using a wire brush and needs to be evenly clean. I have seen this being done using emery paper, the sand emery paper, but in here he has been using the wire brush, and Salman assures me that is probably the best tool which can be used. In either way, the surfaces need to be smoothened so that there are no unnecessary undulations on the surfaces or unevenness on the surface of the brake pads, and thereafter they have to be cleaned using a dry cloth. So before the caliper is placed back onto the stand, it is very important that all the moving areas are properly greased so that the bolts do not get jammed into the future. The next time probably I'll open it up is only in the Benelli service center 6 months down the line. But till then this area needs to be properly greased and lubricated. Very important to place the brake pads properly in the slots given inside the caliper, and there is no unnecessary play. You also need to ensure that the space between the brake pads are sufficient and appropriate for the disc plate, which is finally the instrument which will hold the speed of the motorcycle. So that has got enough play and the brake pads are in proper place. So that's it. The caliper is now being placed back in its original position and bolted securely onto the swing arm. What we saw is only for the rear brake. Now we will see for both the front brakes of the motorcycle. The caliper needs to be removed after the bolts are untightened. The disc brakes in this case of the front brakes are a set of 4, as you can see. These are 2 tiny chocolate pieces like brake pads which are there on the front brake. Now there are 2 disc brakes on the front wheel, so you need to know that this has to be done twice over. Same issue which I faced in the rear brake is also there in the front section, but unlike the rear caliper, the front caliper has much lesser spaces, accessible spaces into it. Therefore it is very difficult now to clean this caliper using your normal brush, and we will be properly dependent only upon the chain spray or the WD-40 kind of chemicals which we use into it. Whatever accessible areas would be there, that would be accessed using the nylon brush, and that will be cleaned properly, and every nook and corner wherever the access is possible we will try to get it there. No forceful entry into the caliper is to be made so that any breakages of the brush or of the caliper parts are happening. That's why you need a trained person to undertake it. So we can see that a lot of dirt and muck has already started coming out from the front brakes. Now front brakes I would not generally use in most of the live scenarios, except when I have to do a bit of panic braking. It's the rear brake which generally gets used the maximum. Once it all being done, blow dry it using the air and make sure that no watery or any solution is left behind. Thereafter clean dry the caliper using one of the available dry rags which are there with you. Try using a rag, do not use a cloth, because a cloth does not bend as good as a rag would generally bend. Thereafter once again all the 4 brake pads in this case needs to be cleaned. Very important to clean it from the edges initially and thereafter into the surface. A gentle scrub is all that you need to do. A hard scrub on the brake pad surface would rather spoil the brake pad than giving you maintenance on it. So please be careful when you do it. Do not do it hard onto the surface. Gentle scrubbing would make sure that the surface becomes very even. Time to put the brake pads back into the slots of the front caliper, one of the front calipers. The job is a little tricky, little difficult. As I said, the accessible locations into the caliper is a little difficult. Thereafter it has been bolted back onto the surface, and we have to again ensure that there is enough space between the disc plate and the brake pads. So the mechanic now gets onto the left disc brake of the front wheel. Same procedure is to be followed as it was done in the previous 2 cases. So I am not going to elaborate much ahead of this. Thereafter I had also done the chain cleaning of this bike, and however it was very normal and therefore I didn't take any videos of it. The bike has now been prepared and time to go. And then this happened. So the bike has refused to start. I'm not sure what is the problem. I'm just trying to turn the key and there is nothing coming on the display. So there is some issue and needs to be investigated. Time to open up this screws and thereafter see if there is any problem with the ignition system, the ignition coupler which is there down below it. So the part which has been pulled out by Salman is the ignition coupler, and as you can see there is one wire which has got cut off from the main wiring which comes to the ignition. So this is a little alarming. It has never happened before, and as you can see the green wire which I'm trying to show is cut off from the main ignition coupler. A part of it is gone inside. The most probable case would have been a very delayed breakage due to overuse. This would have been waiting to happen for some time now. There is no solution to this problem. Wire cut hui hai. The reason is not known why the wire cut has happened. So anyhow, what we are going to do right now is the mechanic behind. So he is just working on making sure that the temporary connection can be made. So I'll take this bike to the Benelli service now. And if not today, it's right now around 6:20 in the evening on Saturday. So the bike showroom would have closed down, the service center would have closed down. What I'm going to do is that I will be now taking it to home, keep it there, and on Monday morning I'll take it to the service center. So stay tuned, we'll see. The new problem which has come on the bike is another level of adventure now. See you then. So I bought my bike back to the garage at my home, and really never thought that a day in which I would just go for doing a monsoon maintenance of my bike, getting the brakes cleaned and the chain cleaned, would end up in a day in which I would have to face another issue with the bike. As I pointed out in the 20,000 review of my bike, the electricals of this bike is pretty sensitive. It is pretty, I would say, very sensitive, that you should not play around with it. And as the case in this with this issue is, the coupler, the main ignition coupler on which the key is put and turned, the main ignition coupler has got one wire which has got cut off. Now that means there is an issue with the wiring of this bike. The entire wiring kit of this bike has got an issue. That's the reason something as simple as the ignition coil wire had to get cut off. So I called up the Benelli India service. They told just reconnect it back with whatever mechanism you can and bring it back to the Benelli service. Today is Saturday, so tomorrow on Sunday evening I plan to go and put the bike in front of the Benelli showroom, hand over the keys to the watchman, and thereafter let them do the work on Monday. I'm not free on Monday to go and give the bike on the service. I'm not able to do that. So, and the evening or maybe whenever they are done with the work, I'll pick it up from the service center. So that is the case, guys. Yet another experience with my bike, the TRK 502 AK Nandi. One wire cut has happened. They have no reason to give why it has happened. Well, the LRL Motor Service Center guy, Mr. Salman, was telling me that it was just waiting to get cut, and it happened right there. This is where I would say that with this bike, fortune has always played a big part with me. I have had punctures right in front of puncture shops. I have had some breakdowns right in front of the mechanic shops. I have fallen down from this bike on an accident and nothing ever happened to me, and the bike was picked up by good people on a highway which is otherwise very busy. No accident happened on that bike otherwise. Very much the lady luck is smiling on me. That's the reason all this happens, yet I am never in distress with this bike. So anyhow, we'll sort out this issue, not a big deal. Benelli service would definitely give me some solution to this. So please stay tuned. We'll have the next part of the vlog in which Benelli India addresses the problem of this bike. So until then, stay tuned.